Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Magic Mics, proudly sponsored by CoolStuffInc.com, Cardhoarder.com, Alter Sleeves, as well as Twitch subscribers and Patreon supporters just like yourself. I am Evan Irwin, and we get started each week by saying hello to my co-host, MTG Nerd Girl.
Hey guys, welcome back.
Yay, we don't have graphics this week, so if you're listening to the podcast, nothing has changed, except Ruben's not here. But for the fine, wonderful people hanging out on the stream or watching us on YouTube, we don't have graphics for 2 people. We only have graphics for 3 people, and it doesn't work the other way around. So that said, it'll be a little lo-fi this week, as it were. That said, if you missed our pre-show, subscribers to this channel get access to it normally, or if I screw up, you get access to it anyway. But we kick it off with our first pick in our giveaway. Get your chance at $50 worth of anything at CoolStuffInc.com by typing exclamation mark raffle in the chat, but sub first to get 2 chances to win. Support your favorite streamer with your suggestions at the end of the show to see who we raid tonight. Thanks to our sponsor, CoolStuffInc.com. You can find cool stuff in stock every day. They're rad. Check them out. So Wizards this week, our first pick is the next year of Magic. We've been waiting on this. This is the Wizards Presents situation they had going on there. And I guess the first question I want to throw out is the idea of Wizards doing something called Wizards Presents. Like, I think they've called it different monikers over the years, but it feels like they've really honed in on this is like our Nintendo Direct.
Yes, there's a lot going on in this. They really kind of went coast to coast with a lot of their products from Magic to D&D, how they're going to combine. I thought it was pretty interesting. People seemed pretty excited. I thought they put a lot of time and effort into the recording of it. Like, there was like scenes where like Jimmy was just standing there and the camera angles were like edgy and kind of sharp. And then they had like the hanging lightsaber looking things floating around. I felt like they put a lot of effort into it, which I think is interesting. It made for a good show. I don't know if that's necessarily where I would put my effort, but, to each their own. I
mean, I think, this to me was, it's a marketing ploy, but they wanted to put their best foot forward. I thought it was very professional. You could definitely tell they paid for a really nice set and, probably ran it multiple times with the takes until they get it just right. And I appreciated that. I thought it was cool. Again, we talked a little bit on the pre-show about how they were like, all right, a little bit of Magic, a whole bunch of D&D, little bit of Magic, a whole bunch of D&D. They kept kind of doing that over and over again. And I'm like, it's fine. But I still don't know if Magic players are going to care about Drist or whatever. Like, I just don't think they're gonna. Not yet. Well,
it was Wizards Presents. It wasn't Magic Presents.
And it wasn't
so
D&D
I think
Presents,
that is kind of normal. But also, I think the D&D community is massive and there's a ton of overlap there. So I don't think that they were necessarily missing the mark with pushing a ton of D&D content because I think it's quite popular.
It's ironic Ruben is not here to talk about all the D&D stuff. But I'm sure
he would just be like foaming at the mouth right now, just like so excited, I'm sure.
Yeah, he'd be like, first of all, Evan, how dare you say something about, it's, D&D having any sort of impact there. But it was fine. Ultimately, I thought it was a cool thing. I thought they did it well. I would be happy to see this happening again in the future for next year, for example. They have an article here that goes over essentially all the changes that Wizards is about to release for the following year. Of course, you have Dominaria United, which, if you didn't pay attention to the spoilers of the art book, you were surprised to see that a Johnny had been completed, and that's a whole thing. They got to talk about there being a whole bunch of like cool promos and things. This promo Dismember looks amazing. You got the Brothers War coming, of course, which is going to be awesome. And even some packaging for it. Honestly, I literally have not seen this till this very moment where I scrolled through here. So,
I like that logo. It looks like legit.
Oh yeah, it looks dope. Urza's Iron Alliance and Mishra's Burnished Banner. Oh man. That's actually,
I think they've been killing it with the, premiere sets. With their logos lately. I will say I've not really liked a lot of their weird like commander logos, and I'm like starting to go through a lot of rares and stuff, and they all kind of look the same, and I can't tell what any of them are. But their premiere sets have been on point.
Are you talking about the set symbol?
Yeah.
Yeah. I literally hate the commander set symbol stuff. I don't know what they're doing. Like, Wizards, there's only so many shields you're going to be able to make, right? There's only so many, and like literally nothing differentiates it. Just put a number on it. Just put a number on it. Put a number or put the letters of the set. Get over it because this is going to be weird and you're painting yourself in a corner and it's going to be awkward. But either way, yes, I agree. The Brothers War logo looks great. I think the set symbol looks super rad. And that's cool.
Capenna was like the knuckles, like just in general. I feel like we've been having a big, a bunch of them that have just been very good. Yeah,
the brass knuckles with the angel wings was unreal. So that was cool. They talk about the pre-release kits and stuff happening on the pre-release is November 11th through 17th. So that'll be fun. But they're also doing 30th anniversary promos, one from every year of Magic's existence, from what I can tell. And things like Windfall, Wood Elves, and Wall of Roots from 98, 97, 96, respectively. That'll be super duper cool. But, and this was something that I talked about last week where I was just like, where is the 30th anniversary promo stuff? And we're getting it here. I'm happy for that. So we move on here to the next year of Magic. In the first quarter of 2023, Phyrexia, All Will Be One, is going to be sick.
I think a lot of people are excited to see the Phyrexians come back. We've seen a little bit, like a lot of creatures got changed to Phyrexian to kind of like fill out the archetype a little bit more. And I think this is going to be one of the like most hyped ones of next year. Oh yeah, I mean Magali, Elish Norn, like come on, y'all. That's about as good as it gets. Now, if you want to look at a Marvel-esque logo, check out March of the Machine. When I saw that, I did think superhero as well. And then I was like, what the heck is that even about? And someone was like, isn't that the Phyrexian symbol? Like, I assume it's Phyrexian. I was like, oh, that is a Phyrexian symbol. I totally missed it. I had no idea what it was. I thought it was like an Infinity set.
Yeah, it's wild in the way I'm just like, because, when the story beats are starting to look a little bit like Infinity War, and then they start kind of using the logos that look like Infinity War, you're like, dang, guys, you really like that storyline, huh? Now, March of the Machine is happening, and we don't know what's going to happen, but it is the epic conclusion of the 4-set story arc that began with Dominaria United. Now, could we just note here that as far as Wizards has ran away from the 3-set paradigm, whether it's big set, small, big, or whatever, they've done multiple times now, multiple blocks with connecting story parts, and that's fine. I'm cool with that. It's just so funny to me that they were like, we're not doing, blocks anymore of, 2 or 3 sets. And it's like, you're literally just doing blocks now. And it's fine. It's just, it's what we're doing.
Yeah, I don't understand why some sets are getting blocks and some are not. I do wish it was like a little bit more uniform because some sets I would have liked to have seen more on that plane, not necessarily needing to be drafted together. But I feel like we spend so much time hyping up a set with the movies, Okay, sorry, you were flipping through it. I wasn't sure if we were going to cut that out.
No, that was wrong.
The shorts, the soundtracks. They have CD soundtracks for an entire set. And the set comes and is gone in 8 weeks. And I'm just like, Like, I could have spent more time in Kaldheim. I could have spent more time in Eldraine. And I would have not hated to see a second sort of iteration of those.
Like, if there had been an entire Kamigawa set about the future, right? And then an entire Kamigawa set about the past and interacting with the future, that would have been amazing. But, they didn't know, and I get that. So moving on here. So they talked about that. Now they talked about March of the Machine, The Aftermath. A small set release provided an epilogue to the events. What? No one's pointed this out. This is a weird what is going on set right here.
Yeah.
Like, what?
I don't know what to make of it.
What does that mean? Like, I've never heard them talk about stuff before like that. It's a small supplemental what? Okay, we'll figure it out. But Wilds of Eldraine, everybody.
Yay! Ooh. I don't care. Everybody's going to hate it. And that's okay. I don't care. I liked Eldraine for Limited. I thought it was fine. The bombs that people hate the most were fine in Limited. Oko wasn't that scary. Embercleave was a mythic. It's fine.
Yeah. Oh, no, I loved Eldraine. Look, Eldraine was pedal to the floor, was some of the most powerful busted crap they'd ever done. This was the booster fun. This was getting rid of the New World Order. Like that, they literally almost lost their minds on power level. I don't know what the hell was going on with like Fires of Invention, for God's sake. But Wilds of Eldraine is awesome. There's tons of fairy tale stuff still left over. There's the Ice Queen stuff, evil queen, thing going on, which I would love to see. And so, yeah, let's go. I mean, look at the right the reflection, next to her face, being the old, witch, is super neat.
I don't think I didn't notice that before.
Me neither. And I was like, that's rad.
I would love if they included like you said, some of the stories that are left that didn't get touched. Mm-hmm. But also the cool thing about this is that they could progress the story. So like we have like the Beanstalk Giant. We could like have a fight between Jack and the Beanstalk Giant. Like you could progress in the fairy tale as you go through these sets. And that's also kind of another reason why I think that having a block of it would have been really fun, actually.
I agree. But I will take it. I am very excited for Wilds of Eldraine, and I can trust that we'll have so many more adventures coming back, and adventure is a fantastic mechanic. Now, this next one, in the fourth quarter of 2023, The Lost Caverns of Ixalan. And I think this is 100% the way to go. Don't spend a whole lot of time returning to places that are already home runs. If, when they killed it with Innistrad and they tried to go back with Shadows, it was cool. Then they tried to do it the third time, not so cool. Like, I
swear, if you say something about Treasure Planet, I'm going to log off.
I'm not going to say anything about Treasure Planet. I've never even seen that movie, but I've seen lots of videos about it. But The Lost Caverns of Ixalan, Ixalan was neat. Ixalan was neat, but was just in a weird time. Power level wasn't super high. A lot of people weren't really into it. It was a tribal set that didn't have changelings, and that caused a lot of problems, I think, with limited. And the constructed stuff was not amazing. But what's interesting is the rumor mill around this set is just fascinating. Now, what little I've heard, if you care to hear about rumors, again, this is just stuff I heard on the internet. It's probably ridiculous, but things like glow-in-the-dark ink, things like having stone tablets, because this is Mesoamerican, right? So the sort of stone tablets as their special showcase versions, things moving around on the card was something else I heard, like power and toughness in the top right of the card, and creature lines and types at the very bottom, and all sorts of just weird, wacky stuff. So
I like the glow in the dark thing. That sounds kind of cool.
I know, right? But that's
probably my favorite of what you've mentioned.
Right. But here was the biggest sort of rumor, kick of it, was that they want to make Ixalan into Zendikar. And so the Lost Caverns is about exploration, right? And finding stuff and treasure seeking. And that starts to sound a lot like Adventure World, which starts to sound like a lot like, Zendikar.
Like Zendikar.
Yeah. But again, the idea that you go to blocks that failed, sets that failed and fix them, I think is the strat. Like, don't go to something that like was so crazy good, you're going to kind of fall over yourself to try to match it. I think you go to places that needed help and you help them, like there's a balance there, Yeah.
The interesting thing is I think that some of the coolest sets were kind of flops in the game of Magic. Mm-hmm. So getting to go back, and now we can enjoy those themes and settings that we didn't get to enjoy before because they were kind of spoiled by the bad format, is really, really nice. I like that plan a lot. Yeah. I will say the popular ones are also great to go back to, so I wouldn't mind if it was a mix.
Oh, for sure. And I mean, like, we're going to go back to Ravnica like every 6 or 7 years. Like, that's just gonna happen. I get it. But like, some of them, I think really the Innistrad sets showcase this the most, which is, I think tried too hard as a way to put, Midnight Hunt and Crimson Vow together. They gave it a good go, but ultimately the vampire set didn't give you a whole ton of great vampires, and the werewolf did the same thing, and that's weird. But either way, the Lost Caverns of Ixalan, being sort of Adventureland 2.0, I'm totally okay with that. Let's get our Indiana Jones going. So that was super rad. But let's get on here to Dominaria United. It is time to talk about what is in Dominaria United. Let's get started here with the mechanics. Now, have you gone over these mechanics yet? Do you know what they are?
I actually did not. I'm used to doing my set reviews, so I tend to not put a ton of time into them as they come out, and I try to look at the set as a whole because I feel like that's more beneficial for me anyway. So,
all right. So let me just throw this out at you, okay? I just want you to think.
Okay.
They fixed banding. They fixed banding.
I need more.
It's called Enlist. Now listen to this, okay? Enlist says on let's just imagine a 2-mana 2/2. This is Guardian of Dominaria. It's a rare, it's a white and a generic mana for a 2/2 creature human soldier. And it says Enlist. As this creature attacks, you may tap a non-attacking creature you control without summoning sickness. And when you do, you add its power to this creature's until end of turn. And this specifically says when it enlists a creature, you scry 2, and you can discard a card to give it indestructible, much like a Danto Vampire. But Enlist is a fixed banding. How long has it been since you've seen them literally talk about summoning sickness?
Yeah, that's interesting. We see that mechanic a fair amount, right? Like we had a tap a creature when attacking, give +1/+0 and lifelink or whatever. We had that in Capenna with a little 2-drop cat. So it's a very similar mechanic. The fact that it needs to not have summoning sickness makes it quite a bit slower of a format, at least for limited, I would imagine. So it's an interesting mechanic, certainly.
Yeah, I thought it was like just like a sort of a neat mechanic, and then somebody said it's a fixed banding, and I was just like, my brain broke, and I'm just like, it kind of is. Sorta. Like, Banded was about attacking together and blocking together, and this is attacking together. I mean, damn, a non-attacking creature you control without summoning sickness is the qualifier. Like, I don't. It also kind of makes me wary of like future mechanics. Like, how many different little things are necessary when it's a non-attacking. Summoning sickness, blah, blah, blah. This means you can't use a creature with vigilance to enlist because, you can't also attack and then tap it to enlist. That's what I was talking about with not attacking. So, yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot. But
that is a lot. And I feel like that's going to get in paper play. I think that will get misplayed a fair amount where people will attack and try to enlist with it. And that will get messed up. Yeah.
And I mean, it's funny. The enlisted creature can have quote unquote summoning sickness because they rarely have ever discussed summoning sickness in that way.
Yeah.
It's always about, have you had the creature since you first, started the turn and blah, blah, blah. Read ahead is where you can have an enchantment saga, such as the Phasing of Zalfir here for 2 blue and 2 generic mana. It's a rare enchantment saga. And it has read ahead. You choose a chapter and start with that many lore counters. Add 1 after your draw step and skip chapters don't trigger. You sacrifice after the third one as normal. So for the first 2 chapters, another target non-land permanent phases out. It can't phase in for as long as you control the Phasing of Zalfir. And for the third one, for 2 blue and 2 generic mana, you destroy all creatures. That means for the cost of the saga. You destroy all creatures. For each creature destroyed this way, its controller creates a 2/2 black Phyrexian creature token. And that is kind of awesome. I'll take it.
Yeah. I mean, I've always been a huge fan of sagas.
Yeah.
I feel like there's a lot you can do with them.
Yeah. I mean, this was just like, it's kind of wild to have a saga mechanic,
Yeah.
But they do, and you can pick any one you want. And so there's a sort of a tooth and nail type saga that you can immediately put some stuff into play, or the first 2 chapters let you go find something. So all sorts of cool stuff. Domain returns. Domain being, for each one of your land types, you get so-and-so. And that's always neat. And Kicker, the greatest mechanic of all time. Kicker.
Is Domain... I think I'm mixing it up with something. Is Domain the one where you have to have 3 of the same color?
No, Domain is equal something, whatever it is. For example, this creature's power is equal to the number of basic land types among lands you control.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was like, Domain sounds like 5 colors, but what is the mechanic that has... Like from Eldraine, where you had to pay 3 of the same thing.
Roma? No. No, from Eldraine, let's see, that was like Adamant or something? Something like that?
Adamant. Yeah, okay.
That's
okay.
Right. There you go. So yeah, Neshoba Brawler there that has that. Kicker's amazing. I'm not necessarily going to explain Kicker. It's like every mechanic is almost Kicker, but I will say Archangel of Wrath is real, This card is bananas. This is just like a little tiny Achroma. For 2 white, 2 generic mana, it's a 3/4 rare angel. It has kicker of black and or red. You may pay an additional black and or red as you cast it. It has flying and lifelink. When it enters the battlefield, if it was kicked, it deals 2 damage to any target. And when it enters the battlefield, if it was kicked twice, it deals 2 damage to any target. And that damage is coming from a life-linked creature. Therefore, you're going to gain that life. This seems like one of the giantest, most disgusting limited bombs I've seen in a while.
So it deals 4 damage split.
Yes.
Lifelink, which is crazy. If you have all the colors, and you don't have to have them both, you can just have a 2-color deck, and it's pretty stinking good regardless.
Yeah. That's not, and it's also using the Chroma sword. If you look closely in the artwork,
yep.
That's freaking rad. This card is just nuts, and I love it, and it's pushed as hell. And I hope it's playable and constructed, honestly, because it certainly seems like it was made for it. So a new type of counter has shown up that's going to be evergreen. You're going to see this in a whole lot more sets coming up, and I love it. And it's so obvious that when you read about it, you're like, why have we not had these already? Stun counters. Stun counters make their debut with a few cards in the set. And so for this one, for example, Impede Momentum for a blue and generic mana, it's a common sorcery that taps target creature and puts 3 stun counters on it. If a permanent with a stun counter would become untapped, remove one from it instead, and then you scry 1. But imagine you can actually, I think, have like Stone Rain, 1 red, 2 generic mana, like stun target land, for 2 turns or stun 2 or whatever. I think that might actually work.
Yeah, the stun mechanic is interesting. We're starting to now see things that were common in other card games. Mm-hmm. Like there is definitely a stun or freeze mechanic in
Hearthstone.
Hearthstone, but also the main one is the Riot's game.
Legends of Runeterra?
Runeterra, yeah. They have a pretty interesting or pretty hefty stun thing that they work with. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, it seems to be working for other games. I do think it's hard for paper gameplay to have abilities like this because it's easy to forget. Mm-hmm. You put a dice, but the dice is +1/+1 counters, and you start to get a lot of things. So the more tokens we bring into the game without actually having a good way to note them is going to make things difficult, but I think it's still unique and interesting.
I think this is that case where like you're going to put up something on top of your deck, right? Because you don't want to forget or whatever. And plus, you definitely want your permanents to untap. So I think you generally have a want to sort of touch base on the stun counters. But again, I think stun counters, because they go on permanents, because stun makes sense. Like, I think we could legitimately see some cards that lock down lands, because the problem with sort of the land control or the, mana denial or whatever was they went to the graveyard forever. Well, if you just turned them off for a few turns, it could work. Maybe. Cool. So those are the mechanics of the set. And overall, I think they're pretty dope. I've been pretty happy with it.
Yeah, they all seem interesting. I do think the enlist is a little underwhelming. Mm-hmm. And nothing here seems outrageous. It feels like pretty low power mechanics in comparison to some of the mechanics we've been seeing as of late, but they seem solid.
Yeah, I mean, kicker's gonna kick, right? Like, like kicker's great. I'll be taking it. There's no cleave. Like, if anything, enlist is like the oddball, but of the oddballs, I will take it because it's not that weird, and it's still interesting. Of course, there is still lots of stuff you can learn about, like how the boosters are put together and the jumpstart's going to work and all that stuff. What I thought was more interesting was the idea that these box topper legends that you get are redesigned legends from the set Legends. Have you heard about this at all?
Yeah, So they announced that they were going to have Legends cards put in, and now they're adding another Legends thing to the packs as well, is my understanding. Right. They're
adding, they're redesigning a bunch of old, I'm going to get some on the screen here so we can look at one, like Jedid O'Janan and people like that. Let's see here. Boop-a-doop-a-doop-doo. Where is one? We'll find it. But yeah, they're redesigning these things. So here's Solkanar the Tainted, right? Solkanar was just like it had Swamp Walk and like made people lose a life when you play a spell or black spell or something. But this is a new, interesting, cool, different setup, card for the set. Actually, now that I say this, I think that's a DMU card. Here we go. Hazazon. Hazazon, Shaper of Sand. As you note, in the bottom left corner, it is a DMC. So this is technically a Commander card. You can only play it in Legacy and Eternal formats and stuff in Commander. But this is a creature that deals with making Sand Warrior creature tokens just like the old one did, which is really cool. But the new one, is sort of a modern design aesthetic.
Yeah. It also kind of brings it up to date because creatures and things back in the day won't a lot of times go toe to toe with the creatures we have now. 6 mana 4/4s or whatever just don't cut it.
Yeah, I mean, Hazazon Tamar is now a $300 reserve list card. Oh my God. Because I remember having this card and everyone hated it. But yeah, and so having a new version, A, obviously we can't reprint the old one, but B, we can still talk about making sand creatures and sand warriors just like the old one did. And I think that's super rad.
Yeah, keeping it true to what it was originally is a great way, I think, to go about handling these sort of reprinted fan favorite characters.
There you go. So, There was I'll pull up a tweet here from Aaron Forsyth, who discussed briefly the fact that there is going to be Painlands in Dominaria United. And I am super excited about that. First of all, nostalgia exists. And man, a Dark Card Waste was one of the first lands I ever got out of a pack and traded for my play sets and all this other stuff. So that's super rad. And they talked about the 6 Painlands will be in DMU, but where's the rest? And Aaron Forsyth says, getting an understandably large number of questions where the other 4 Painlands, rest assured they're coming soon, within this calendar year soon. So, no, they did not say the Brothers' War.
But if it's in this calendar year, it has to be the Brothers' War? Or I guess it could be in a Commander thing, right?
I mean, no, it'd have to be in the Brothers' War. That's the only other release. Doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
So there you go. All right, so that is the Dominaria United stuff. We'll talk about specific previews and stuff next week when we have Ruben here and whatnot. But ultimately, that was a super cool sort of layout. I love the idea that Wizards can make this sort of one day really special and have these sort of unique programs created. They're in the can, they're ready to go. They're able to stream it live. I didn't get to see all of it, but it was a little odd for them to kind of ape the office hours bit from the professor. Did you see this? They had these skits that were running before the show started.
I didn't.
Yeah, they had these scripted cosplayer skits about Teferi in the office and Bob the Planeswalker or something. That was, it's silly and it's fun. It's cool. But, it didn't use any of the sort of the community members who cosplay currently or work with Professor on his bits, and all that entails. But overall, I thought they were funny. It's kind of silly.
Nice.
Yeah, it was neat.
I'll have to check them out.
Yeah, I liked it. If anything, I was surprised because I started watching the stream on YouTube, but on Twitch, they were actually running the skits, but on YouTube, they were not running the skits. And I was like, what's up with that, guys?
Aw.
Yeah, that wasn't cool. So I missed a whole bunch of it, which is unfortunate. That said, we move on here to Magic30. Magic30 is hopping right along. It's coming soon, and it's going to have an artist alley of some amount rather. And Jeff Miracola noted that they got their form letter invite, and they're going to instead be in the SCG Columbus show, where Star City Games actually knows their first name. So maybe a little tone deafy sending out the form letters to very famous artists.
So they say, did they get his name wrong, or did they just send him a generic?
Yeah, I think it's Dear Magic Artist is my take on this. Is yada yada yada.
Okay.
Here's a form you can fill out. Yada yada yada.
I mean, he got sent the invite, so they clearly know his name and he got sent it. So I feel like that's a little, I feel you, they aren't doing any favors to the content creators. A lot of people I know that are much bigger than I feel very sad that they weren't asked to attend, even if it wasn't paid for, they would like to have Wizards be like, we'd like to have you guys come, maybe a ticket or something.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of people feeling jilted about Magic 30 for sure. But I feel like if you got the ticket, you're on the list, you should feel a little okay about it. But
yeah, there's an amount of like culture difference between the comic book shows and the Comic Cons, you know, versus sort of like the Gen Cons versus even the Grand Prix and the Command Fests and things, and how people are treated in entirely different ways, and how things have changed since the old shows versus the new shows. That's a whole thing I ran into and running the Command Fest in Orlando. And so, yeah, it's interesting. I don't know how much to be upset per se, but also recognize that, you know, I think it came off just maybe a little tone deaf. But you know, either way, I think if you're an artist, you want to be a part of that show. So that would be my take. Let's see here. Can move on here to just a silly story. I thought was silly was, you know, moving on here. First of all, let's back up and get our bills paid, everybody. We did move into Gather the Townsfolk thanks to our sponsor, Cardhoarder.com, offering the best inventory prices and delivery of cards for Magic Online. Check out Cardhoarder.com. Tell them we sent you, because it's a great little spot. Okay, cool. That said, but we are going to move on here to Desperate Ravings. And please check out our altar sleeves. Support the show by using the code MagicMikes for 5% off anything in the store, including a set of exclusive sleeves featuring the Magic Mikes crew at altarsleeves.com/MagicMikes. Check that stuff out. So yeah, there was a post on Twitter that said, the person says, round one of this Legacy 5K. Some guy points at his opponent's Underground Sea and says, is that a proxy? To which the opponent replies, does it matter? Then the guy says, can I see it? The opponent says, no. The guy calls a judge. It was the Magic Online art for Underground Sea. If it needs to be said, you cannot use proxies in official Magic the Gathering tournaments.
Which, you know, is a separate conversation. Whether you think that should be allowed or not, then that's something you can discuss. But right now it is not. So the discussion is that, like, when the person said, no, you cannot see it, I feel like that's like, I know it's not supposed to be here. And here we are. And that's kind of scummy, I suppose.
It's just, yeah, it's one of the, like, first of all, you know, again, whether, you know, the debating of whether it should be or shouldn't be is fine, but obviously the letter of the law right now is it ain't happening. If you do have altars are fine. Just talk to the head judge to make sure, like, you know, they're cool with it or whatever. But yeah, and also don't print out your dual lands from Magic Online art. Wow. But going infinite here, into the segment Going Infinite, I thought it was really neat to sort of ask, you know, what do you think Magic's going to look like in another 30 years, Nerd Girl?
What do I think Magic's going to look like?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Oh, goodness. Are they just going to power creep themselves into oblivion? Can they make it work?
I don't know. I think we will all be dead and drowned in secret lairs, personally, I think is how it's gonna go down. Like, we'll just slowly die. It's just secret lairs all the way down. Like, that's all it is. You know, like in the spooky movies where you find the treasure trove and the guy's sitting on his throne, but he's like dead and he's, you know, skeleton-y. I feel like that's where we will all be. Just our throne, just like mountains made of secret lairs. Unbelievable. Yeah, there's an article on TCG Player about, you know, from let's see here, from Cassie LaBelle, who talks about, you know, what's going to happen if they were in charge of Magic. What could they do? What would they change? A lot of this is about foils and the fact that foils are not really, I guess the word is respected these days. But, you know, beyond that, because these days foils cost maybe a couple dollars sometimes than their other halves. You know, it used to be foils were twice or three times as expensive sometimes. Nowadays, it's like, Yeah. Also, promos. Like, most of the promos are worth less than the pack basic ones. Foil promo worth less than just pack pulled non-foil. And that's just because, like, I don't know. We've gotten to the point where everything is special, so nothing is. Yeah, I mean, they've like this whole thing apparently, and I just read this, that they're going to start putting textured foils in like all of the collector packs in Dominaria.
And I'm like, texture foil was like that 1 in 2,000 thing you just did in Double Masters. You're now literally making it not special anymore. Like, why?
Yep.
I don't get it.
I feel like everything is just its own version of special, and the market is no longer going to think that it's special. It's just giving a lot of variety to everybody who wants those things, which, I don't know. I'm not much of a collector, so maybe driving the price down of the special things is not terrible, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's okay. I mean, and it's interesting. They talk about, how they've done some weird stuff, like the foil neon copies of Hitotsugu, which has seen almost no play in any format whatsoever, about maybe Commander. But,
Mine is in the trash. I looked it up recently. I only have the special store one, but it was like $500 at first. And I was just like, oh man, like, this is really cool. I refused to sell anything that was like sent to me, and Wizard sent it, but now it's down to like $50. I'm like, oh, poo.
Yeah, there's a certain amount of supply and demand. There's a certain amount of people bought them for the high price, expecting that to explode. You know what I mean? Like, oh man, these things are really, really rare. And it's like, yeah, the red one, or whatever, the most rare one, or the purple one is stupid.
Well, I think that they are all rare. Like, even the yellow one that I got, I don't think there was a ton of them made. Yeah, the issue is that it's not a good card. So it's like there's no demand. Nobody is going to get to put that in their sweet deck and show it off.
Yeah, I mean, that's part of it, and I think that, and I think part of the sort of the point, I think in many ways, was that they chose a card that wasn't the greatest card in the set. You know what I mean? It wasn't the best, the most commandery thing. The Viscera Seers that were backwards and were individually numbered, like those were another weird test that they did. They never, as far as I can tell, have literally never said one public word about the backwards Viscera Seers with serial numbers. So if that's a good thing, I guess we'll see. And yeah, the idea of trying to get around the reserve list, Lord Almighty, I'm not getting that quagmire again. But some cool ideas. Link is in the show description. I'll ship it here to the chat, so you guys can check that out if you want. But yeah, I think can Wizards continue for another 30? Absolutely. And I'll tell you what happens when they can't. And I've said this many times. Is that there will be a Magic 2.0 one day. There will. They're going to design themselves into a corner. It happens to every game on a long enough timeline. Things have happened like this over and over. Like Warhammer 40K did it. Like they literally just said, here's the new rule books. All the old stuff's done. Like just one day, just like, boop, and that's it. Like X-Wing power creeped themselves into oblivion. They literally came out with X-Wing 2.0. So like worst come to worst, we'll have Magic 2.0.
Well, the slight difference with those is that a lot of that stuff, there was not a lot of separation. I feel like the formats kind of insulate us from a lot of it. There is still a power creep, certainly, but because we are having rotating sets come out, it kind of keeps that power level a little bit more in check. Obviously, there's going to be the legacy, and legacy's already degenerate, but like I don't know that is ever going to need to change. I don't know if they'll ever just write that off.
That's fair. I mean, again, this is where, if they make Magic 2.0, they can make, Black Lotus again, because it's a whole different, game at that point. It's Magic the whatevering or something. But yeah, they can make all these cards that people want them to reprint.
Magic the quarantining.
There you go. Well, we had that for a minute. That was not fun. But anyway, can Magic continue for another 30? Absolutely. Magic will continue after I'm dead and gone. That I am very confident in. All right, cool enough. So let's move here to what is unfortunately the finisher, as we have no joke. Ruben is our resident joke writer. Was not able to write one as he is out for his for a wedding, which is going to be awesome, I'm sure. And we wish him the best in that. That has been another live episode of Magic Mics. Thanks for joining us here to discuss all things Magic. Thank you, Nerd Girl.
Thanks for having me, guys. Hopefully we'll see you guys next week, and we will be funnier.
We'll have so many more lulls at the end of this. All right, and we move to our final slide. I want to thank our sponsor, CoolStuffInc.com, our co-sponsors, Cardhoarder.com, and Alter Sleeves, my co-host, MTG Nerd Girl. You guys for watching and listening. I hope you support us at patreon.com/magicmics. Please follow, like, tweet, favorite, share, subscribe to everything social that tells people we exist. Catch us online on our Discord, twitch.tv at Magic Mics, on Twitter at Magic Mics Cast, our Magic Mics subreddit, and like the Magic Mics page on Facebook. Or join us here next week, same time, same place, for another episode of Magic Mics. Good night, everybody.